Welcome to the studio. You're listening to Willow Waves, a student-produced podcast where kindergarten through 6th graders explore interests, promote solutions to global concerns, and communicate about everything related to our social and emotional learning.
We aim to amplify voices, share knowledge, and encourage conversations. Visit us at willowspringses.fcps.edu to learn more and subscribe.
Join us as we explore our diverse and dynamic world of elementary education.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Willow Waves podcast. Our names are Mason,
Sapan, Silas,
and Joseph.
In this episode, we will be talking about the history of flight and the future of flight.
For centuries in the history of mankind have always dreamed about flying, but they could never do it successfully.
In 1902, two curious brothers invented the ability to fly.
They created the Wright Flyer, the first successful aircraft ever.
They used smooth and soft leather for the wings and simple wooden sticks to connect the aircraft. Bending the tips of the wings helped control the aircraft's yaw. The front of the aircraft included a flap that bent up and down to add an element of lift. 3 witnesses saw Orville Wright fly the biplane 12 feet in the air for about 30 seconds, covering a distance of about 120 feet. Their names were Will Doe, Adam Etheridge, and Johnny Moore.
More than a century later, people are finding solutions to make airplane engines more efficient and better for the environment. Technology in flight has allowed humans to dream. It has not only taken us to the moon, but landed a rover on Mars. The downside to this dream being fulfilled has been the damage it has done to our atmosphere. Now people are creating new awesome technologies and creating things for a better cause. Since jet fuel is a big CO2 emitter, some big companies are already putting sustainable jet fuel on their drawing board. Those are people who care for the earth and care for our safety.
It is created by 2 simple technologies, solid and liquid DAC. They help process the air and get rid of all the CO2 and convert the clean air into energy. That energy is then converted into mechanical energy and makes the jet fuel. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the history of flight. Soon after the creation of the Wright Flyer, the Army, there was no Air Force yet, adopted the creation and later made their own airplane. After word got out about the first airplane, many countries started making their own too.
During World War I, biplanes were made out of strong metal and steel. Instead of having the propeller on the rear, it would be made on the nose of the airplane, which is the very front. Now they were equipped with miniguns and other weapons.
The 1930s were very important in the history of aviation. In 1930, Neil Armstrong was born. That's someone we will talk about soon. In the 30s, Amelia Earhart became the first woman aviator to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean, and the first person ever to fly from Hawaii to the U.S. mainland. During her attempt to be the first person to fly around the globe solo in 1937, she disappeared during a refuel trip somewhere over the Pacific Ocean.
It's World War II. This was a peak for aviation and science. The first jet fighter was made, the first high-altitude bomber which could drop a nuclear bomb from a height of about 32,000 feet. After the war, engineers used technology from a horrible war and turned it into the most important invention of aviation.
The jetliner. It could go from New York to London in 5 hours. That cut the old propeller speed 3 times. This changed the history of aviation forever. This wasn't a rich person thing. This soon became open to everyone, and it became normal for jetliners to be seen in the sky in people's everyday life.
Now the space age. This is the decade of the space race. During the Cold War, the U.S. and Soviet Union were trying to be the best in science and engineering. They created powerful nuclear bombs and spacecraft. The Soviets were first in space by sending Sputnik into space, a satellite. It made beeping sounds as it orbited the Earth. Inside was an animal ranging from a dog to a monkey. In 1969, Apollo 11 launched and sent the first people to walk on the moon.
This time it was the United States. Inside the capsule were Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. Neil Armstrong was the first person to step on the moon and said, "That's one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind." While Neil and Buzz are doing scientific research on the moon, Michael was inside the capsule orbiting the moon and picking them up after they were done.
The 1970s were the birth of supersonic travel. In 1976, a joint project between the UK and France had people in shock. It was the creation of the Concorde, the first supersonic airliner. It could fly to speeds up to Mach 2. That's twice the speed of sound. It was luxurious and very expensive. Although this sounds like a fabulous plane, it was very, very, very bad for the environment. First of all, it had sonic booms every few minutes, and it woke up people in cities all around the world. Second of all, it destroyed part of the ozone layer. Everywhere it went with its inefficient jet fuel. The Concorde retired in 2003 after a fatal crash, killing 113 people.
The 80s and the 90s was a time where rockets and planes became part of people's everyday lives. The space shuttle program has started, and people started to use more aviation in their lives. In 2001, the terrorist attacks of 9/11 devastated the people of America and the aviation industry.
Now, people are creating new awesome technologies and creating things for a better cause. Since jet fuel is a big CO2 emitter, some big companies are already putting sustainable jet fuel on their drawing board. These are people who care for the earth and care for our safety.
It is created by two simple technologies, solid and liquid DAC. They help process the air and get rid of all the CO2 and convert the clean air into energy. That energy is then converted into mechanical energy and makes the jet fuel.
Technology in flight has allowed humans to dream. It has not only taken us to the moon, but landed a rover on Mars. The downside to this dream being fulfilled has been the damage it has caused to our atmosphere. Now you think, what can you do to help our environment?